Milwaukee Public Schools could be out millions in state funding after they failed to properly report their finances. And a judge coming under some scrutiny while he presides over a legal challenge to Act 10. CBS 58's Emilee Fannon, WisPolitics editor J.R. Ross break it all down in tonight's Capital Connection.
This week we begin with a big story in Milwaukee after we learned that Milwaukee Public Schools is at risk of losing millions and millions of dollars after they failed to report their finances, some dating back to September, and some of the reports that they did turn into the Department of Public Instruction had multiple errors. Now, we know this is going to potentially impact MPS, but there's also looking ahead that this could potentially impact every school district in the state, because without knowing how much MPS spent, they can't distribute aid to the rest of the 420 school districts across the state. So this is potentially a statewide impact here, JR.
So I'm watching for is it will be a legislative response to this. So I've watched Republicans propose breaking up MPS into at least 4 districts, something like that. Now, critics complain that if you did that, you're just basically creating more bureaucracy. But I've seen that happen. I saw an effort to try and give then County Executive Chris Emilee basically a takeover powers of MPS. I saw then Governor Jim Doyle try a takeover effort 15 years ago. They've all failed. But there's a constant frustration in Madison of why can't MPS get its act together, leadership get its act together, but what could they do to change that? And don't forget, Tony Evers, the governor, former state superintendent of schools, would he be a willing ally with Republicans if they wanted to do something legislatively to impact MPS? That's a huge question for the next budget.
The other questions I have, too, is when did the school board know about this, and why didn't DPI let the public know sooner about this? I mean, they said they've been meeting with MPS since April of last year. They were, weekly meetings, and then, now they're daily meetings. It also begs the question, why not inform voters, specifically in the Milwaukee area, about these financial woes before you go and ask voters to approve a $252 million referendum? So also there's a lot of calls for Superintendent Posley to step down. Those are things that we're going to be watching for going forward. Another big story this week, of course, was a lawsuit challenging the very controversial law known as Act 10. It was in court on Tuesday, and we heard arguments from public employees and teacher unions wanting to basically argue that the law is unconstitutional because it still does have exemptions for firefighters, police, and other public safety workers. Meanwhile, the GOP-controlled legislature and attorneys in court argue that, hey, this has been a law that's been challenged before and it's been upheld. Therefore, there should be no changes to this.
What really now the focus is whether Judge Jacob Frost should be here in this case. He signed a petition to recall Scott Walker back in 2011 when he was a younger attorney, pointed to the court in 2020. Should he be even hearing it? Now, I've met lots of judges and justices. I've yet to meet one who told me that they could not separate their personal feelings from their legal beliefs. So it's rare, if ever, for a judge to admit that, hey, I can't do this, I should step off. So there's not really a mechanism to force him off. But looking ahead, let's say he stays on the case. It goes to state Supreme Court. Janet Prasewicz, the new liberal justice, she signed a recall petition in 2011. She marched against Act 10 when she was then an assistant DA from Milwaukee County. Brian Hagedorn, a conservative justice, part of the Walker administration when the law was crafted. Can they hear the case? It's sparking a bigger conversation in the Capitol about just looking nationally. Justices Alito and Thomas, the U.S. Supreme Court, can they hear January 6 cases because they have spouses who've done things that have suggested they're biased toward Donald Trump? More and more talking to people in the Capitol, they feel like while judges walk into the courtroom in a black robe, they're wearing the party's jersey underneath, and that these are results-oriented decisions, and judges and justices who are kind of, I would say, insisting upon staying upon a case to represent their side. It's not helping the credibility of the justice system for people, and that's, drawing more scrutiny. But is there a correction? Is there a fix to this? Probably unlikely.
Yeah, that's kind of just how our judicial system is working nowadays. Now, looking ahead to next week is a deadline that Assembly Speaker Robin Vos will face whether he wants to challenge the most recent recall attempt against him. Now, organizers of the recall submitted more than 9,000 signatures to the State Elections Commission this week after their first attempt was failed and came up short with the amount of signatures. While they are within the threshold needed to trigger a recall, that is a decision left up to the State Elections Commission.
So they have until the end of June to decide if they have enough signatures. They turned about 9,000 in. You need 6,850. There's a sense of people I talked to, they likely have enough. But does it matter? two things here to bring up. One, Robin Vos will almost assuredly file a lawsuit if the election commission says there is a recall here, because we don't know what seat he should be recalled from. The maps used in 2022 no longer exist because of a Supreme Court decision. The new maps, put him in a different district, don't exist in theory until this fall, so can they even recall him? And then two, even if you can recall him, even if you beat Robin Vos in a recall election, he can still be on the ballot in the normal election almost at the same time. You have to beat him twice. Can they do that? It's a huge question and really prompts the observation people have talked in the Capitol of these recall proponents should have focused just on the regular election, put all their energy there, find the right candidate, put all the resources there. That's your better shot to beat Robin Vos. Now you have a possible messy legal battle in your hands and competing elections at the same time.
All right, definitely something we'll keep an eye on. Thanks so much for joining us this week.